friends, welcome to episode 191 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can, whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I am Sarah.
I'm Rob.
How are we doing, Rob?
Very full.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Pretty much same?
Yeah. We had a good luncheon today with our head of marketing.
With our head of marketing, yep, Sam. Thank you
And,
so much for your time and all your efforts.
We got a great ideas out of it too. So
yeah, we put together a lot of the next year worth of.
I got a pack full of stuff behind me. So
man, don't we ever? And that's kind of tonight's show, really.
Yep, that's it, everybody. Good night.
Not to just not to just bust into the topic right away, but I mean the topic is kind of just very open tonight. It's looking back at the last year, looking forward to the next year.
Yeah.
Kind of how it went for the show, kind of how it went for gaming in general.
It's been a weird year in a lot of ways, but not necessarily bad, I would say, for gaming as a whole. We had a ton of new systems come out.
Yeah.
A lot of good Kickstarters hit and did exceptionally well and are producing exceptionally well. I know
the Blade Runner one from Free League. I was a member of that, so I've got that book sitting around. I believe it or not, I haven't even looked at it yet.
That happens when you have a bunch of other things to look at.
Yeah, we've got so many of those other system spotlights. Pinnacle came out with the Savage Worlds Fantasy Companion.
Yes.
It's in its kind of like final forms. We're just making like little revisions, but I bought into that Kickstarter as well, so I'm getting the advanced copies of that.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how that works itself out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in here, I wouldn't say near the end of the year, but definitely in the late third and fourth quarter, D&D 1 really kicked in.
Yep.
And we saw an upsurge in angst and joy and trepidation of all things in the DM Academy.
There are so many opinions happening.
Yeah, rats jumping ship for no good reason other than to say there's other systems.
Mm-hmm,
As they often do in that ebb and flow of what they know versus what's out there. And what's great, I would say, is that even though we had a good kickoff to this spike in playing from like Stranger Things and some other pop culture areas that kind of engaged people back into role playing. Hawkeye had it for LARP and there was feelers, but we had a lot of good inferences that came in. It didn't die. We just had a bunch of people grow, and it kept growing to the point where like now to find a good GM is hard.
Yeah,
and that's a thing that's fantastic. It's one of those moments where it's like, that's good. That means there's lots of players out there. There's lots of games out there attempting to be ran, and a lot of fresh blood looking at trying to run games, which is fantastic. Like that's being creative. I love all of it.
Absolutely.
I love all of that stuff. So
absolutely. Do you want to also mention tonight, in case you are one of the dozen or so people listening live to the show?
Yeah.
That are, as we've said it before, but I just want to issue the reminder, our Discord live chat is always open to everyone, not just Patreon members on this night. So if you are happening to be listening live right now, you can grab our Discord link off of storytellerconclave.com or off of our Twitter feed and join us up on our Discord, and we will get you validated and get you in the live chat if you want to chat with us on the air right now and ask us some questions, talk about various things going on.
Help us shape the next year,
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got ideas, definitely.
Yep. So I see Overwatch, Heat Sync, Knox in the Box is here. Arcticus mentioned something earlier. It was about 15 minutes ago. Good to see everybody there. I see JGenX is typing in the live chat. Excellent.
I have not seen. I watched all the way through Gumball, and that was because we got a little Gumball gift her, but I don't even know because it's just Gumball holding a piece of paper, which looks blank. So, I watched all the way through Gumball, and I will have to say it is a little weird, but at the same time, very oddly wholesome.
Yeah. I've seen just little snippets of it here and there, and it looks like it lampoons reality pretty well.
Yeah, but in such a odd way that it feels comfortable by the time you're done with it. You're like, it's because in the art style definitely does it. Like the art style is a normal world with a bunch of
cartoons drawn on
cartoons
top
drawn
of it, yeah.
into it, and clear insanity that happens all the time. But somehow the world resets itself. So it's a lampoon on a lot of things. But at the same time, like a lot of the topics just make sense and work. So
For me, it's a masterclass in internal consistency, which is a good to
Yeah.
kind of bring it back to like storytelling. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good metric for like as long as your rules are consistent within your world, it doesn't matter how ridiculous they are.
right.
As long as they're consistent.
Yeah, no, that's and the thing about character development is it can be slow.
Mhm.
But if there is character development, especially for NPCs, like if you're telling a story and you want to have NPCs develop, have them develop, but do it over a period of time and make all the developments character related.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's another thing this does is it only happens as characters have interactions with them. When the main two characters interact with with those people, they change. Just a little, but not enough. Like they're 100% recognizable as they move through, and I love that, except for obviously the odd main plot that I will not ruin. So
Yeah, sure.
but we've had some tea changes this year as well.
yeah.
I actually have
ran
the
out
new
of the,
tea, so
you ran out of the Paris.
yes,
Which one is this?
this is the lemon ginger, the new one that stopped you dead in
Yeah.
your tracks for a little while.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
It is
right
good,
here.
good stuff.
This
So
is good stuff right here.
Yeah. but
Give it a little stir. I'm not even trying to be quiet about it. And we're talking about the tea. Y'all can hear me stir my honey into it.
that's right. She's sipping the tea.
It's very good.
But we had a lot of system spotlights this year, and what was funny was as we were going through them, I went, didn't we do Alien this year? And then I was like, no, that was last year. Oh, wow. We've done a lot of system spotlights.
Man, time flies.
It really,
so
really
much.
does.
I was having trouble. We had to like go back into our notes and like really figure out which system spotlights we did in the calendar year of 2022. Because yeah, I thought Alien was pretty recent. I forgot Mouse Guard was this year.
Yeah, beginning of this year.
Yeah.
JGen X, it's a Tulsi lemon ginger. It is caffeine free. I mean, which means it's pretty, but it's an organic India tea, and it is really, really good. If you haven't had Tulsi teas, I recommend them. They do not sponsor us. I wouldn't mind it, but
Sam says tea ASMR.
I am not slurping.
This is now an ASMR podcast. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's just happening. But yeah, and in the system spotlights, we had quite a few, but I know we were talking about, like, how do we want to break those down? And, like, which one was the best? Which one gave us the best impression? So, like, I would like to at least hit some of those, because I know those were questions that we had gotten kind of asked in the passing. So, what was the biggest impression? Which one of the system spotlights?
Oh God, I think every single one of them left an impression on me in some way.
Okay.
And that's dead honest. One of the biggest reasons why I think I love doing the system spotlights so much is because it forces me every single month to expose myself to a game I never have picked up before.
Right.
And or at least if I have picked it up before, like in the case of Mouse Guard, where I'd been playing it for a year and a half before we did the spotlight on it, it caused me to deep dive the player's handbook and really like dig into it in a way that I never would have engaged with it as just a casual player.
Right.
You know, as far as like the actual biggest impression on me goes, I think Arc Doom left me feeling the most enthusiastic about stylistic choices in the game itself.
Okay.
To me, that was a game that the mechanics felt like the idea it was trying to convey the most.
Okay.
In that it was quick, it was simple, it was very rules light, but there was a part of it that never let you feel like the world wasn't ending.
Mm-hmm.
Everything having a real-time component to it.
To the point where, like, magic is dangerous.
Yeah.
Like,
things have a real-time component to them, so there's always a clock ticking. And then, reading, like, the spell descriptions where it's like, oh, yeah, you can do this and just absolutely break reality. But you have to eat a human heart if you want to get that spell back. And you're like, I have to what now?
Yeah.
Oh, did we forget we were dealing with apocalyptic themes here for a second?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest impression is kind of a toss-up, Because, like, Shang-Chi, Blood in the Banquet Hall,
Yeah.
I think as a whole game, as you take the game, it had the biggest impression because of how they presented it.
Yes.
Like, first glance, I was like passing glass, I will say, when I first heard about it and kind of what it was about, I was like, ooh, I'm a little concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But then the moment that I read into it at all, I was like, not only are they doing it justice, but at the same time, they're flavoring it as it should be done. Like, the book itself lended so much to accepting what you were getting into and being okay with it.
Yeah. There was definitely a moment where both you and I were like, is this about to be a racism?
Yeah.
And the answer was yes, but it was written by, Chinese immigrants, Chinese Canadian, who it was an act of cultural exchange, not an act of cultural appropriation.
And that was the big thing, is like, if that had been done by anyone else in the same style, with the book the way it was done, I don't think it would have had the same, but it would never have been written like that.
Yes.
It would never have been presented like that.
Agreed.
And so in that sense, that left a huge impression on me. Like, I want to go back and really understand what made all of that feel so right.
I will say we reference it a lot for a game we've never played.
Right. And because of that impression.
Yeah.
I think the second one for me was honestly the One Ring. And it was because we reference it a lot because of how it handles fantasy better.
Yeah.
Not whether it's OSR, not whether it's dice or balance or anything like that, but literally the flow of the game follows what you think D&D is.
Yeah, a group of adventurers gets together at a home base, ventures out into the dangerous
to
wilderness.
a danger, does a danger, returns home, and are triumphant. Like, that's what you think an adventure is.
Good things happen along the way, bad things happen along the way, stories are told,
people are
memories
injured, decisions are, and whatever, but, like, it has all of that baked into the way the game rolls out, and in that sense, it was like, why isn't this, like, praised by more? Why isn't this examined by more?
Yeah.
And that was my impression behind it, was like, I really like it. I think it's fantastic. I think if I did run another fantasy game, I would just lift out the rules and set them. I might even run a One Ring game just because I really liked the flow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe some of it breaks down in the mechanics of actual gameplay, and there might be aspects of that don't really translate well. But overall, first glance at the impression on it, it really sings like it should.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. One of the other categories we want to discuss in here was best experience reading. The prettiest book, the best layout. And man, there are some contenders because
without a doubt,
Morkborg, Arc Doom, and to an extent, Mouse Guard, but then One Ring,
One Ring does sit very high on that.
One Ring, I think, is going to edge it out for me. I mean, Arc Doom and Morkborg were works of art. Absolute works of art.
Morkborg, for me, edges it out only because Morkborg never loses its edge. Like Plangea, it never loses metal.
Yes.
From beginning to end, you every page that you turn over and it is Morkborg.
How can I make it more metal?
Yeah,
and
I
here
love
comes Morkborg, just wants to know your location.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, in it, I will say it handles Dark Souls better than Dark Souls in that sense, is that Dark Souls, the video game, never lets you leave Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm.
This never lets you leave Morkborg.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I was like, oh man, that is beauty in itself.
Step 5 of character creation. Give your character a name. It won't help.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
I can hear Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes,
Give your character a name. It won't help.
You want me to sit in the corner and roster just fall apart where I'm standing.
But that's why I think that one edges it out for me.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a lot of strong contenders there.
So,
man.
Best reading experience.
Best reading experience? God, I know I keep coming back to Arc Doom, but I almost have to give it to that.
I think it was a good experience.
I mean, I think Lasers and Feelings, because it's a one page.
No, seriously, that was going to be mine, because like that is something that not only a storyteller can look at, but a player can look at the same level and be like, I'm ready for this crap.
Done. Yeah.
So,
but like Arc Doom for me, first off, you know, a very pretty book to look at. Every page is a wondrous work of art. The art style inside was very like cryptic and fantastical, but off-putting in a strange way.
yeah.
But also a lot of different colors, a lot of different fonts. They really cranked the design elements up to 11 on that book. But just from a functional standpoint of reading it as a rule book, like you remember all of your important words and all of your important rules were like bolded and or underlined, denoted in some way within their various paragraphs. That if you could skim over it, they draw your eye immediately to the one rule you're looking for.
I agree. And in that sense, it was quick.
Yeah, it was not only pretty, but it was super user-friendly.
Yeah. And I think a good mention goes to Morkborg and Mothership for tables at the front.
Yep, tables right up front. This is the useful information. We're not hiding it on you anywhere. It's not on page 153.
The game ain't that slow.
Yep.
Let's get right to it.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, we're going to have two here.
Okay.
Most likely to play, best game that you'll never get a chance to run.
No. Read it correctly.
That I'll never play.
Best game I'll never play.
Okay.
Because there's a distinction. Getting the chance to run it and wanting to run it
versus playing it.
Versus this is a horror game. And I have no horror players at my in my current party. I would have to go searching for them.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, nobody I know is really into that sort of stuff. So
not really,
not
unfortunately.
really.
Like I think the closest I would get to it is mystery, or like intrigue with a little bit of like SCP.
Yeah. Which I could probably pull that off.
So most likely to play.
Most likely to play. Well, I mean Mouse Guard because I'm in a game.
Well, let's skip over that one then.
I can't cheat on that one.
No, can't cheat on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I immediately came up with a game idea for Arc Doom.
Mm-hmm.
So that sits pretty high on the list. One Ring, like you said, very high on the list because I think it offers a really great fantasy experience, arguably better than the flagship fantasy, D&D.
Mm-hmm.
I have a number of people in my life that are interested in spacefaring games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Stars Without Number sits pretty high on the list.
Okay.
And I think Mistborn would be really cool to give a world to.
Okay.
I very much like that world.
See, I think that you'll never get to play that one.
I don't think I'll ever get to play that one though. So I'm going to say probably most likely to play is going to be Arc Doom for me, just because I think I feel the most inspired by that, and that inspiration would drive me to actually get a game together of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
How about you?
Most likely, I'm going to end up playing Lasers and Feelings. I feel that it's way too easy not to just throw that together.
Too accessible.
Like,
too
why
accessible
not?
to say no.
Why not? And honestly, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think best game I'll never play is probably Stars Without Number. Just because pulling together and getting... Because it's a full game.
Yeah.
Right? It's a full game. It's a lot more. It sits on the lot more. I think the far end of that scale is Dune. I like it, but I don't think enough people in our group could enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like I can't even think that it would fit in, although it would be neat. It'd be a challenge.
Yeah, I felt very overwhelmed by Dune.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't do political machinations well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do them well, I feel dirty afterwards.
No, you should. You should.
I have a brand, and that is high adventure,
and the thing is that, and I will flat out say this, doing those, you do feel dirty at the end of them.
Yeah.
Because you're playing a dirty game at all times. So, if you're doing Shadowrun right, you should feel dirty as the storyteller / Johnson.
Yeah.
It's just the way the game goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I will say that there was a lot of great mechanics that came out of all of these this year that made me think about mechanics and other things. Mouse Guard's dual player storyteller section. I love that concept. I love that in Kids and Bikes that there's a common character that everybody works toward. I like that idea.
Great, yes.
And I definitely see that as something that I would run at any age level. I think that could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shang-Chi, obviously, the way that they handle the levels of respect and knowledge and between the elderly and the youth. Like, there's a cultural diversity there that makes sense, right?
Yep.
That, like, if you're old, you're better at handling the old culture and ways and have knowledge, whereas if you are young, you're good at the street level and can adapt and are physically better to handle things. And I kind of like that spectrum. I think that's lost in a lot of ways.
For me, I mean, like, I think, you know, we can always come back to it, but the big thing, the big selling point for me for Shang-Chi is the storyteller section.
Yeah.
And how great it is at speaking to how to run a culturally sensitive game and how to present racism as an element in your story without being disrespectful or making anybody at the table feel icky about it, you know?
Right. Also, just the way that they present you not being of and doing a racism, but understanding what's the trope versus what's the reality within the culture, and being okay at certain levels of that and being able to be corrected or adjusted.
Sure.
I think that's beautiful.
Sure.
I think it's wonderful.
Say something nice about 7th Sea 2nd Edition. I dare you.
It'll take me a second.
He's got his eyes closed. He's flexing his neck right now. He's just kind of humming and hawing about this. He looks like a kid that I've just eaten to eat his broccoli.
I said I'll need a minute. While I'm needing a minute, tell me something that you're going to pull from Morkborg.
Something I'm going to pull from Morkborg. Am I going to pull something from Morkborg?
Or it stands out as the thing within it.
Oh, I mean, for me, Morkborg was a game that dripped aesthetic. And I think if there is a lesson to take from Morkborg as a game itself, it is a level of immersion in the world building that, from the standpoint of, like, in a lot of games we have a separation. Like, we all kind of acknowledge that we're all just like adults playing make-believe at a table, you know? And we're all just kind of having fun with it. And Morkborg kind of takes it that extra level of, like, even the rulebook itself is brutal metal, you know? And I think it, to me, that really kind of says, like, you can go further.
Yeah.
You can go further. You can narrate things in a way that exude black metal. You can have the soundtrack in the back that is black metal. Like immerse yourself in it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the reading that rulebook pushed me to feel that way, you know? As far as game mechanics, though, I don't know. Like, it's very light on the game mechanics.
It is. Coming back to 7th Sea, I think the thing that I take the most out of that is that they did make a hard shift to narrative, and I think that was I like that aspect of it. I think that there's that they willingly shifted to say all players can do something, because it's more about moving through in a heroic way rather than letting the dice show how heroic you are.
Yeah, okay.
So,
okay.
You know, the whole and having consequences and opportunities and allowing the narration to be a lot more flexible does lend a lot to the story, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I kind of pull from that is that concept of I did well. That doesn't mean I do more damage. It means there's now an opportunity.
Yeah.
Or I did exceptionally poorly. It doesn't mean I'm dead. It means something happened that was a consequence.
Right.
And
right.
that turn of concept is refreshing, especially in a heroic situation.
Yep. That not everything hinges on a life versus death scale.
Right. Like when the hero of a heroic movie is, who has just outwitted the spies, makes his jump and just barely catches the ledge, and they're shooting at him. His dex roll failure doesn't mean he either gets shot in the head or falls off and dies.
Yes.
Like, that's not how that system should work. It should be, oh no, he dropped, his radio took a bullet, so now he has no communication with his team.
Mm-hmm.
Or the detonator device slipped out of his hand, is now 40 feet below him on a ledge.
Yep.
These are the things that happen that create consequences. So now there's, a new decision that has to be made. And keeps the heroism still up there, and making you think about what you can do next.
Yeah, absolutely.
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 Those are the kinds of things that you can take from those, I would say.
Yeah, I think the whole concept of failing forward.
Mm-hmm.
And
the mouse guard design of that too.
Consequences and complications and whatnot like that. I think that was a big. I think that was a concept that I think I really latched onto in 2022. Like I think there was a lot of different games that showed me how that could be done very well, and that's a big takeaway for me. So
yeah, I think that's a great takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great one. Where do you want to shift to? We got ideas here.
You know what? Let's talk. Let's actually go down past the next bullet point. Let's go to our year in gaming.
Okay.
We're kind of already talking about it.
Yeah.
So what games did we play?
Well, we played. Let's see, Mouse Guard.
Yep.
Savage World.
Yep.
D&D.
Yep.
5th edition.
I don't think we played anything else.
BattleTech.
We did play some BattleTech.
We did play some BattleTech.
Some BattleTech, yeah.
Easy BattleTech, I'll say. Easy BattleTech.
Yeah, casual tech.
Yeah, casual tech. That's about it, I think, for this year. It was not a very big gaming year for us.
No, and being in 3 games, and of course, like all 3 of us tend to do very long form campaigns.
Yes.
Rather than like brief one shots and stuff like that. Like, I see people on Reddit, they're like, I finished my first campaign. It ran for a whole year. And I'm like, oh, sweet summer child,
Even at the luncheon, like, oh, we finished our campaign. Oh, is this your first? Oh, no, I've done like 3 now so far. And I'm like, dear God.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that would be nice.
But we only play like once a month, maybe at most,
Yeah.
and we're very deep, very narrative, style things. Like, it's difficult to just, I don't know, it's difficult for me to just breeze through a campaign. Like, I feel like I need time to let things breathe.
Yeah.
And
I would think this year, as we move through it, I'm going to try and do shorter stories.
I think
like the Lasers and Feelings, bringing, like, I gotta close my campaign, and before I start my next campaign, I want to do some more small stuff. I think it'll help round out some of my concepts and things like that before I move forward.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a New Year's resolution on both of our parts.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to the exact same thing. I've got that Pokemon game.
Yeah, very interesting.
The Savage World system that I was looking into doing. In fact, may have recruited Samantha as our 4th player.
Awesome.
If we can get everything together, I know like a lot of people kind of got some stuff up in the air right now, but we're not ready to go tomorrow, anyways.
No.
I'm thinking like March at the earliest, but I kind of want to run that as maybe like a 4 or 5 game session, like
just to try it
thing,
out,
and
kick it around,
just see how it works, and if anybody's having fun with it and whatnot, and
yeah.
But yeah, I kind of there's a lot of game systems I do want to run, and like I think I get stuck because we do run things as big, like we always think of things in these vast, like, oh, I can run this huge epic thing. And then it either never takes off, or it takes us years, or it takes us years, and then life interrupts us for, I don't know, a decade or so.
There's the concept of for every finished minute of footage in a commercial, it takes an hour of shooting and editing.
That makes sense.
So, like, you see a 30-minute, or 30-second, it was a second, like a 30-second spot on, during, like, the NFL game or something like that. It could have taken 30 hours plus to shoot it, and then another 30 hours to edit it. I feel that there's a curve there that gaming could have as well. Like, for every page of notes that a GM has, that's a session.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh boy, I have like 100 pages of notes for my campaign. Well, that's 100 sessions that you're going to go through.
Yeah.
Maybe trim it back.
Yeah.
And then multiply that by the number of players at your table, and that's the actual number of sessions,
Oh my god. Yeah. That's... I really thought Act 2 was going to be very, very quick. I really thought Act 2 was going to be like...
I thought Act 3 in my game would be over by now.
Yeah, I remember you, like early on in the year, you're like, oh, there's probably, like, I don't know, maybe 3, maybe 4 sessions left, and I just remember looking at you like, okay, Boomer.
Yeah, no, seriously, I was wrong. I'm still wrong.
Yep.
I'll be lucky if we finished it by the end of 2023 at this point.
Yep.
But I look forward to that. Actually.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I have my last session is on this Saturday of this year.
Yeah.
Last session of this year. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that one goes.
That's right.
I actually got to get out a note about that. I was terrible. I'm being a bad GM, and here I am saying I'm being a bad GM, trying to remind people to schedule my game when it's been dead silent for the last month with everybody.
Well, I mean, one of your players is in the live chat, and one of them sitting in front of you right now.
I understand that. So at least some people are listening and hearing about it.
If you're listening to the show right now, just remember it's on the 31st.
Yeah, we'll get to play on. All right. So in that sense, moving into the new year,
what game tickled our fancies?
Oh,
yeah, we got more to talk about here, man. Because I know what my answer for this is.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, so 2022 was the year of Savage Worlds for me.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, I think we actually like officially switched over to Savage Worlds in 2021.
Yes.
Yes. But like 22, this whole year was like the first full year of playing Savage Worlds that I had. Got a lot of different game sessions under my belt now, and I've seen the elasticity of the system.
Mm-hmm.
How far you can get it to stretch, what you can get it to do, what it's good at, what it's not good at, and such like that.
Right.
And man, I love it.
You do.
Man, I love it. It's like I am still absolutely head over heels in love with the system. Anybody asks like, oh, what's a good system for? It doesn't even matter how you finish that sentence. And I'm just thinking to myself like Savage Worlds, I realize that's not the truth.
It's not the truth, but I think in 90% of people who are coming to you from a D&D, like, hey, I've been playing D&D, what would be a good system for Savage Worlds?
Savage Worlds, just do it.
Clearly you still want to have classes and dice rolling on the table, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, even for... And this gets thrown around.
When I say classes in quotes there, I'm just being safe.
In discussions on Reddit and stuff like that, too. Like, this gets thrown around is that Savage Worlds has Pathfinder for Savage Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
For people who want to get into the Savage Worlds system, but still kind of want the same sort of structure as like Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder. It's a nice bridge system. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't change much about the core rules at all.
No.
Like there's some slight differences in like the power levels, and there's some like you take your class edges that kind of give you your core class features.
Mm-hmm.
But it still has that open sort of horizontal progression that Savage Worlds is good at. It's just I don't know. Everything I've encountered so far about the system has just turned out really well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I've even got some other converts,
Mm-hmm.
So Sean looking to throw his own game together, set in kind of a cyberpunk, setting.
Yeah.
He's been working on that for a while, but he's been looking at like the Nova Praxis rules and I think the Interface Zero rules as well,
mm-hmm.
Which are both subsettings for Savage Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And then you, a longtime 7th Sea lover,
mm-hmm.
7th Sea First Edition, I should say.
First Edition, yep. Looking strongly at Savage Seas to do Savage Seas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Savage Worlds to do Savage Seas, which isn't an official setting. That's just kind of the name we're throwing around the office for your essentially conversion of it, you know?
Because I see a lot of potential there for being able to make direct adjustments and portray the setting in a very valid way.
Why wouldn't you just run it in first edition?
Well, my biggest problem with just straight up running it in first edition is that I want something that is, I would have to say, more open and classless. And 7th Sea first edition still has a feel of classes, even though we're calling them by their more so by their countries of origin. That's kind of how they're defining classes.
Okay.
And I want to go more classless. I want to go more open and flexible. And secondly, the system doesn't lend itself to the same level of complexities that were shown in your game, where you can have the diversity of player types in a world and still have interactions and challenges and consequences with a mixed party. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, a bunch of brutes have come in the room. How do I handle these with my 3 scholars and 1 sword fighter?
Right.
It gets odd very quickly and would make it very cumbersome, whereas Savage World kind of just takes it in stride.
Yep.
You know,
one of your scholars grabs a flower pot and smashes it over the head of the other one.
The second thing that I would say is playing with the deadly rules makes a lot of sense in 7th Sea, which the 7th Sea system does not account for. Mm-hmm. 7th Sea makes you feel very, very invulnerable. You pull out a pistol and you shoot somebody. Yeah, you take a dramatic wound, but you can usually take 2 or 3 before you're going to go down. Savage Worlds, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, it's got a pretty sharp death spiral to it.
Right, and that's how you make the world feel deadly. Mm-hmm. You know, I may still play with Heroes Never Die as a rule set,
but you're still looking at wound penalties.
And going down, period.
Yeah.
You know, you may not die, but you're out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that's a key difference in the world set. And I think Savage Worlds does a better job of putting you back into that position where, like, if someone comes up and tags the crap out of you, the next thing will kill you. Mm-hmm. And, like, yeah, tagging is going to have more meaning in the sense of, like, I now understand what it could do in Savage Worlds. And so I think that's that kind of stuff, you know, and swordplay has meaning and heavy weapons have meaning. And,
yeah, sure.
You know, I just feel that it adds a lot of credence.
Right on.
So.
Let's see here. Any other games that tickled our fancies?
You know,
I mean, aside from, like, system spotlights and stuff like that, like, I'd literally just open up to anything. Do you see something that kind of came out that...
You know, we've got one friend who wants to run a BattleTech game, and I'm so hopeful that they do the campaign.
Yeah.
Like, they've gone through a lot this year, and I've just been trying to lightly encourage and push a little bit, like,
sure.
Because I don't want to, you know, don't want it to be a burden. But at the same time, like, there's an excitement there, and I, as a storyteller, seeing someone excited about a plot and story and things like that, you want to be excited with them.
Oh man,
you know,
like, and there's, like, ever since high school, I've wanted to get back into BattleTech. You know,
yeah, and, like, even our Discord, we've got people who've came in over the entire year and dropped whole plot sections of their stories in, and people are excited and writing and being like, hey, what about this? Have you thought about this? And, like, they're like, oh, just eating it up like it's ramen, you know?
Right.
And I love that. I think that tickled me more this year, is that we were able to have these discussions with people and get people excited and out of that stress mind frame for even a second to rethink about their games and jump back into them. And that's all I've wanted this podcast to be, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is to help people and get them comfortable with running games again. Or even get interested in running games again.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I think one of the games that really tickled my fancy, and I feel, like I said, I feel bad, like I have not even looked at the book yet, just because I've been so busy. Is that the Blade Runner Kickstarter? Mm-hmm. And she just got my copy of that not long ago, and I think the reason I'm so enthusiastic about that is not because I'm a huge Blade Runner fan, but because I'm a huge Blade Runner 2049 fan. Mm-hmm. And Sean and I actually just watched a little like I don't know, like a documentary, but like a video essay.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of deep diving a lot of the themes and stuff that in there.
Okay.
It's called Cells Interlinked, and I apologize, I do not remember what the author's name was.
That's fine.
It was a little over an hour long. I want to say an hour and 6 minutes or so. It's called In Cells Interlinked,
Mm-hmm.
and talks about a lot of stuff like I didn't understand. I didn't know that. So In Cells Interlinked is something that Joe says Kay says during his baseline test.
Yes.
It's
yes.
actually the last thing they're like, in cells interlinked, and he's supposed to respond interlinked.
Right.
That's actually a quote from Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov,
Okay.
who I believe is the same person who authored Lolita.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And it's a kind of a surrealist poem
Yeah.
about this guy who writes this poem called Pale Fire, I think it is, and then but there's this other guy who's like trying to help him get published, but that guy is like really delusional and like starts believing that the poem is actually about him
Okay.
when it has nothing to do with him.
Right.
Like, and there's a lot of like weird things. It's when you hear it described by the author, it's like almost House of Leaves-esque,
Oh.
in that there's multiple ways you can read it.
Mm-hmm.
And how you actually experience the physical book
Mm-hmm.
can change kind of how you experience the story.
Interesting.
In that there are it's written there are notes by this publisher character written in the front of the book. Oh, thank you. Actually, Overwatch just linked it in the live chat. It is Lady Knight the Brave is the author within Cells Interlinked.
So the book itself has extras.
Yeah, but there's a lot of subtle stuff. If you understand Pale Fire, there's a lot of themes that cross over into the story of Blade Runner 2049, and that being what is a real identity? Who really are we? Do our experiences change who we are? And kind of the concept of this publisher character thinking he's the main character of the story when really it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with him. And kind of one of the thesis statements of this thing is that Kay is not the main character of the story.
No,
the camera follows him the whole time, but he is
not the main character.
This is not the character. This is not the main character of the story. Yeah.
No.
But it's a fascinating exploration of identity to me. A lot of the themes of transhumanism and artificial intelligence and at what point do we draw the line and call something a sentient being?
Ooh, true.
At what point do we draw a line and say this is a person? That is deserving of our respect, and I mean, really the answer is everything is deserving of your respect. It costs you nothing to be nice to people, including if they're a hologram or if they are artificially created,
Right.
But it confronts a lot of those sort of questions and stuff like that, and I really found it very thought-provoking. And if you can't tell by the fact that I've been talking about it for 5 minutes now...
I've been noticing that.
It sets my senses a tingle just to think about these things, and I don't know that if I ran a game of Blade Runner, I would ever be able to bring these concepts to the table in a way that the storytellers of Blade Runner 2049 already have. I don't know if I would be able to do them justice.
Well, I don't think you necessarily Blade Runner's universe is a deep universe that opens the door to a lot of areas.
Yeah.
No different than Cyberpunk or anything else that expands upon the concept of humanity. And there's nothing to say that you can't do that in fantasy or any other space.
Oh, sure,
It is often done. I mean, Gaelic tales of old talk about the concept of moving between reality and the Fey realm. And where does that line bleed, and who are you really as you step between these shadows of self?
Oh, sure.
I mean, Norse mythology did the same thing with clearly you're going to Valhalla, but there is a stage point at which you can become a member of that guard that will make it.
Hell, Vampire the Masquerade even has a stat called humanity. You know?
Correct. And I think in City of Mist, or sorry, I get it all the time. Urban Shadows.
Yeah.
Has the same kind of bleed point where you lose self.
No, that's City of Mist.
The City of Mist has that.
Yeah, that's City of Mist. Yeah. The balance between which side you're leaning towards, the mythos or the mundane.
Whereas I think Urban Shadows has more of what not humanity, but the deeper and darker you go into your powers, the more you become what that is and lose self.
Yep.
Lose consciousness of yourself. And I think that those are all elements that are coming forward more and more in role-playing games and role-play where you have a player who's playing a character who's losing self while the player is losing self into the medium. I mean, it's all an expression.
It requires just a lot of buy-in from your players, and I think that's probably the biggest hurdle I've got about running a game like that is it requires so much buy-in from your players, and it requires you to really focus on bringing those themes to life. You really have to think about how you present all of your game information and whatnot, in a way that plays into the theme, and you can't just do stuff, because it would be cool. You kind of have to do stuff in service to the theme.
So do we need to prepare for a 303 in 2024 called Role-Playing Transhumanism, How to Do It Properly?
High concept storytelling in the age of transhumanism. Yeah, sure.
I mean, when you're role-playing, a role-playing role-play.
Ooh.
I mean, yeah, but, I mean, even, it's funny that I literally worked on. I came up with a game concept sitting at the table while you guys were talking at lunch.
Yeah.
That kind of expresses the duality. But I think that whole layering is multiple shows within itself, and we are clearly
within cells interlinked.
Yes, exactly. Yes, interlinked. Oh man, I love that we can just do that with topics because we have a microphone.
Sean's actually in the live chat right now. He says running an RPG that is about the human condition can be done by putting players into situations where the choices and actions have personal consequences.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely
there was
a very important step for it.
There was a module for, I think it was open, but somebody had kind of tailored it for D&D called something like A War of We. I think it was A War of We, W-E.
Okay, yeah.
And the whole concept is you create characters, and those characters everyone starts out at disadvantage. Everyone starts out at 2 levels of exhaustion.
Okay.
You are a band of individuals. You have to explain how you could be a troop, you could be a group that just, refugees together, you could be whatever. But you start out in a broken town, hiding from an army that is marching through.
Oh.
That is the opening.
Okay.
You are not part of said army. That army could be anything. That is up to the storyteller to say what it is.
Sure.
But there is a war going on around you. That you are not, no one in the group, you can't say, you guys are, a small, remnants of a garrison or something like that. Nope. You're all, one of you could have been, but the whole idea is that you are a ragtag group that is broken and homeless and severely, malnourished and basically having to survive. And the whole game presents to the storyteller, 5 pages that are each page being a event.
Okay.
Your players have to survive through this. You basically just pull one of the pages at random. Once you're through all 5 pages, that is the game. That is it.
Oh, okay.
And it's the first page is you come to a grouping in the road where a cart has turned over, and there are people fighting for food, and there are clearly bunches of different individuals with weapons drawn and doing kind of a standoff, and everybody is at odds, and you just get to know how do you handle that situation, and that's just one of them. And it goes through, and like each one of these is like a little adventure, a single adventure, and they're all stressful.
Yeah. There was a video game that was a lot like that, and I'm trying to remember what it is.
Kind of side-scrolly game that was you're surviving in a war area.
And like you have to like steal food from other people and
make hard decisions,
possibly kill innocent people because they're just desperate and trying to survive.
Yep.
I remember that game made my stomach just like, I didn't even play it. Just watching the trailer for it, I was like, oh, I've got a tummy ache right now.
Yeah, but I mean that's one aspect of playing the human condition.
Yeah.
There doesn't mean there can't be other aspects of playing the human condition. All human conditions are hard.
Yeah,
and
they are.
So, like, having someone who doesn't know who they are, and then presenting them in the story that, A, you aren't who you are. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not the bad guy, but you're also not the hero. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just one stage of human condition.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Yeah. It's challenging. That's definitely 303 level storytelling.
Oof.
Speaking of that, so next year we through the power of common idea sharing and brainstorming, we think we're going to expand next year into 202s. We're going to keep it in the same slot. So first Wednesday of the month, we are going to do a 202.
Yeah, so we're going to deep dive some concepts. We're going to expand on some of like the 101s that we had from the last year. And so now that we've kind of taken you through the 101 of storytelling, for all of you brand spanking new storytellers, well, you've got a year of that. So congratulations on your graduation.
If you haven't, go back and listen to it.
We're going up to 202s now. And we're just going to expand upon some of the concepts that we didn't, deep dive as much.
Yeah.
And into some topics that are a little more, I suppose, high concept or a little more edge case that don't really fit into like your typical, like these are the basics you need to know. For instance, next week's topic, and this isn't the end of the show, so I know we always end that on next week's topic. I'm just prefacing this, is going to be about liminal spaces.
Yeah, the spaces in between story.
In between stories. So when you travel, when you camp for the night, when
sometimes
you get
long rest
and
even,
stuff like that. What narratively do you do with these liminal spaces that aren't main story-driving encounters?
Yeah, and you don't necessarily want them to be. Like, you don't need it to be a side plot. You don't need it to be main plot.
Yeah, exactly.
How does that fit in? How do you still make it enjoyable and story-like?
Exactly. So, again, you can kind of see how it's not a one-on-one. Like, no real storyteller needs to, like, know this is an absolute basic of things that you need to...
Yes, JGen X. Like backrooms, like interstitials of storytelling. Like, you got this layer of Act 1 and you got this layer of Act 2, but there's got to be some transient in between, that transition point.
Well, no, I know what JGen X is referring to, actually. It's the backrooms are liminal spaces, but we're meaning liminal spaces in more the literal sense, in that it means in between. Yeah. And not liminal space in that it's come to culturally be, which is like spaces that are basically SCPs.
Oh,
yeah. The Backrooms is another collection of like cracks in reality that people fall into in places that are liminal in ways that kind of are psychologically
challenging.
Yeah, not necessarily bad, but just like the Stanley Parable.
Gotcha.
The Stanley Parable is very Backrooms-esque.
Gotcha. That makes sense. No, not those Backrooms.
Yeah,
that's a 303.
Man, running a... Yeah.
War of Mind.
This War of Mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Overwatch. We appreciate you. Which is basically a Polish team talking about living during a war. Oof, oof, oof.
Oof, oof, oof. Yeah.
Back to like Shang-Chi. It's the right people telling the right story, getting it right.
Best game I'll never play, man.
Oof. So, in that sense, we're going to do that. We're also going to do some workshopping, which was kind of discussed a few times within the Discord, and kind of discussed where we're going to throw challenges at each other live on the show.
Yeah, we've done this a couple times before, here and there over the last 3
but never
years.
hard focused.
Yeah, it's never. But we've kind of got like a handful of shows where we're gonna workshop live on the air, and the main reason we want to do this for y'all is so that you can kind of hear what our thought process is out loud, because that's some of the feedback we've gotten, especially from like newer storytellers, is like, okay, I understand
the concepts
that why you arrived at these things, and it's cool that you have it so fleshed out, but how did you get there? Can you show your work?
Yeah, and that's where we're going to try and expand on that, is that we will literally open the workshop with a basic thing and present to the other person a random piece and workshop it, and go from there and have a completed thing at the end, whether it be like a completed concept for a plot or a completed concept for an adventure or something like that. Now, we've got a couple of workshop things that we've got to workshop to get them framed up the way we want to do it, but I think that I think it'll present some new looks, and honestly, it'll be a lot of fun for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the thought exercises, and I think it's also a great opportunity for our listeners to shoot us ideas too, if there is something you want to see workshopped on the air, and you want us to kind of see our process of coming up with these things.
Yep.
You got the list right there. Do you want to spill?
I was going to actually go to the system spotlights to see if any of these really tickle people, because we're not going to put out the list until they start coming out, but because you're listening, you get to listen in. And
yeah, right on.
Get this. So for the system spotlights this year, these are the ones that we've picked out so far. I don't know what order. This is not the order.
We're not in any particular order.
But Cortex was on the list.
Yep, that was a suggestion from a listener.
Worlds Without Number, which is something that you wanted to hit. That's the basically the fantasy hero version of
Stars
Without Numbers.
Yep.
Your Blade Runner, we wanted to do that one, definitely. Blades in the Dark, we definitely have talked about that a few times. Monster Care Squad got flagged for us, and I like the idea of stepping into something cutesy.
Yeah, it was inspired by Studio Ghibli, apparently.
Yes.
So.
Cindy Cult, which is going to be an interesting one as well. Urban Shadows. Bindlewood Bay.
Bindlewood Bay.
Now, if you haven't heard of this, it's imagine if you had Murder, She Wrote and Columbo and basically the old ladies club who love mystery novels. Only Murders in the Apartment. Only Murders in the new one with Martin Short and Steve Martin.
Okay.
Definitely kind of falls into this category as well.
Miss Maisel's Mysteries.
Yeah, Miss Maisel's is another one. But yeah, the whole concept was like you've got these older people who are kind of doing murder mystery. And I thought that was kind of a neat one.
Yeah.
Wonder Home. Root, which we've both seen and been interested in.
Yeah, it earned some Ennies on the 2022 Ennie Awards. And so we saw it. We saw the book at Golden Rhino.
Yeah,
Golden Rhino Games in Ypsilanti.
Probably go pick it up, honestly.
It was very bright and colorful, and I absolutely love the art style there. So I'm excited to look into that one as well.
Monster of the Week, which we've passed a few times. Like it's been in the list, and we've just never grabbed it.
Yep.
Deadlands, coming back to Deadlands.
Deadlands, yeah. I was hesitant to do a game that ran off the Savage Worlds systems. Because we did Savage Worlds as a system spotlight,
right?
But now that I understand the system better, obviously from playing it for a while, and Deadlands is a long and very beloved game, and I think it would be a shame if we didn't come back. We talk about Powered by the Apocalypse games all the time. We talked about a handful of Free League games that use the year one system. I don't think the system should be anything barring us from.
No, and then the last one on the list, which is going to make you to your sigh, is Dresden, the Dresden game. See, I knew it. I knew it was going to be in there.
I'm so into Dresden.
Yeah, that's going to have to slot. Maybe we'll slot that one for a special month for you. So.
Yeah, we should definitely remember to put Urban Shadows and Dresden Files on opposite sides because they're essentially the same game.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, yes and no. I think theming definitely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that around.
One is Powered by the Apocalypse and one is Fate.
Yes. So little different mechanics, but definitely a similar tone.
Very similar tones,
but not
urban fantasy,
but not similar stories, which is intriguing.
I mean, I think Urban Shadows is to Dresden Files what Mothership is to Alien.
Okay.
You follow?
I follow. I do follow that.
Urban Shadows is Dresden with the serial numbers filed off.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that. I'd have to see, well, not mechanically. Let's leave that off. But the theme, feel, yeah, I could see that.
Knox in the Box in live chat says, I bought a big Dresden comic collection because of you, Sarah. Look what you did.
Did you dirty there. Did you dirty.
Absolutely.
And then I think at some point next year we're definitely going to have to crack the egg on D&D 1. I don't know how. There's a lot to crack there. There's definitely some focus. Nice. Nice response.
Then perish.
But I think D&D 1 right now is getting a lot of interest regardless of how you look at it.
Yep. Yep.
It's going to take, I honestly think it's going to take more than a show to examine. Because it's going to have to. I think there's 2 examinations to be made, but I don't know. I don't think we should have 2 shows of it next year. But I do think we should do something on it. But I kind of like, one concept for me is the evolution of D&D with D&D 1 and what it's exposing of how the game is made, how the game is played, the direction that it's showing.
Yeah,
and I think the other aspect is how they're doing it, how open it is, how accessible it is. I mean, it's one thing to say D&D is changing and, have a arg kind of look at it. It's another thing to say that there's a freaking game available to play that you could download and get right into. That's a design.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. Like, I will say, like XP to level 3 kind of said it, like, quit your bitching. Move on. Like, don't grump. Like, okay, if you're trying to go for the drama so you could get your viewership up, great. Go enjoy yourself on that regard. But, like,
sure.
If you're literally just making a comment on a thread about how angry you are about D&D 1, you're still playing 4th edition. That's not going anywhere.
Right.
You're still playing 5th edition. That's not going anywhere. Because 6th edition isn't your idle perfect game, whatever. It doesn't matter. None of that matters.
Yeah.
Ignore it and move on, right?
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, it's I kind of understand. I mean, you watched 7th Sea go through, its iteration from 1st to 2nd, and you were just disappointed in what 2nd became, and that hurts you,
I get it.
You showed that earlier. Saying something nice about 2nd edition, and you were like, ah.
Well, okay, I didn't ask an angry person to make an opinion about D&D 1. All I'm saying is
that's fair. That's fair. But here at the same time though, my point being that, like, I watched, maybe not a role playing game that I love, but I watched Warhammer turn into Age of Sigmar. And to me, that was very much the same move of, like, oh, you've killed my baby. I loved Warhammer Fantasy, and I really dislike Age of Sigmar, or at least what it was when it first came out. Maybe it's gotten better. I haven't really paid attention. But, I understand the angst of watching something you love change, and especially in a way that you don't like. And yeah, you're correct. The older editions are still there. We still play, 1st edition 7th Sea.
Yep.
I can still pull out the most, what was it, 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it 7th? I don't remember. Whatever the last version of Warhammer Fantasy was.
40K stuff that's, a couple versions old.
Sure, it's, the rules are still there, but it still doesn't, you know that the game has moved on. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain aspect of, that the majority of the community is still going to be playing the most recent rules, and that all the support is going to be going behind the most recent rules and stuff like that. It puts a hard limit on the amount of, like, you're never going to get a 1st edition 7th Sea source book ever again.
No.
No. I'm never going to get a new army book for any of my Warhammer Fantasy armies.
Well, I mean, you might according to Overwatch, but
yeah, there's classic Warhammer. I don't know. They've been saying they're going to bring that out for a long time, and frankly, I don't trust Games Workshop as far as I can throw them.
What, their hype boy Henry Cavill not doing it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a huge 40K fan in the first place, so But
I still think it would have made a better live action movie than World of Warcraft, but that's just me.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, I get it. I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, I do agree. Like, those old editions aren't going anywhere, and
No.
like if you're just complaining because it's different, like, if you're gonna complain, at least have a valid criticism. Why is the thing you're complaining about worse than what we currently have? You know, other than it's different.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid of change. You know,
which is the biggest thing.
yeah, it really is. I get it. I get it. We fear change. It's a human impulse.
But every day we change.
Right.
It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like
what
death in Texas.
What I'm probably more worried about with D&D 1 is the recent buzz that we've got about the executives talking about how it's under-monetized
Yeah.
and how they want to introduce some sort of a pricing structure and or like incentive. They're like, well, DMs are the only ones buying any of our books. The players, they just show up and play for free. The nerve of them. They don't pay a single cent for our game, and we really, that's an avenue of monetization that we haven't explored yet. It's like, buddy, my guy, my dude, I think you forget, or maybe never knew in the first place. We used to play this stuff with steno pads and pencils and one set of dice with a flashlight in a tent on a camping trip. We do not need your D&D Beyond, etc., etc. Like,
right.
we will go right back to Theater of the Mind.
Yeah.
And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. You
Right.
know?
Right.
I'm worried about that because the moment corporate executives get their grubby hands on things, capitalism ruins everything, and we have to suffer through that. So,
Knox, I think that's a new game that I'm going to come up with. Death in Texas. It's inevitable. Like, that's going to be the subline on it, and that's going to be my new Powered by the Apocalypse game. Death in Texas.
Death in Texas.
It's inevitable.
Speaking of Savage World settings, there's East Texas University. If you really actually want to play Death in Texas, take a look at East Texas University.
It's the Buffy game, right?
It's Buffy-esque in that. Yeah, it's a bunch of college students at East Texas University in Pine Box, Texas.
Ooh, Pine Box, Texas. That
Pine
says
Box,
it all right
Texas, who become embroiled in the supernatural about their town.
there. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Games are done in semesters.
Okay.
The storyteller's called the Dean.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and
I like
the character sheets all look kind of like notepad, paper
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
writing down.
like
So
the three,
that's
like spiral bound.
school file entrance papers,
Nice,
So
nice.
yeah, it's
Okay.
pretty cool. There's a lot of big fans of ETU out there. All right. We were well past the hour point. Do we got anything else we want to talk about? I know Nevim asked questions. What games
But I think
you
we
played
got
this
all
year?
these. Yeah,
What games are we hoping to play next year? Yeah,
yeah,
can
we
talk
got
about
those.
that a little
Yeah,
bit.
we covered you, Nevin.
Big shout out for tossing in that question though.
No, we appreciate it. Helps frame us stuff. But yeah, I would say for our listeners out there, I think the biggest thing that I could ask for next year, as far as the show.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of everything else, I think the two things, like one of the big things that we had put on our charts, because we don't talk about doing this, and we put it on the chart for this year, was trying to get our name brought up in any other space in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I will take it. I will take it as a win that we didn't necessarily get brought up in the community, as far as we know. We'd love to hear if we did. If anybody, and I really don't care who, dropped our name, I would laugh and accept that as a win, but I don't think it happened. But I will say it was remarkable the number of YouTube videos that got put out shortly after one of our shows, within like 2 weeks, that were very interestingly framed about some of the topics in our show.
Yeah. No, please note, we are not making an accusation here.
No,
It's just...
but the thing is that I'm not saying that if we even gave them the idea to have a discussion about that topic,
Sure.
I am happy.
Yeah.
Like, we're not here making money. Believe me, we're not here making money. We don't want that. We're not here for recognition and props. We're here to make the community better. And that was just a light target that we had this year, was could we get name dropped?
Mm-hmm.
a college class, a craft class.
Yeah.
In like Toledo, Ohio, randomly.
Mm-hmm.
That was just like, oh yeah, I heard your husband on my favorite podcast. My friend was like, what? Like, you do what now?
your favorite podcast? Oh yeah, it's this thing called Storyteller Conclave. It's like,
and then they talked about it.
yes,
Like that's cool. I will take that as a win because
Yeah.
like we have marketing that has done an incredible job this year. Thank you, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from like not last year at this time? Yeah.
Yeah,
But
last year at this time,
time,
averaging what 200, 300
200
listens.
300 listens. We're now up to 1,000 listens a month.
Yeah.
We're averaging closer to like 900.
Yeah,
So like I'll take that as a hard win of like we're reaching more people.
and
we
many
know
more. L'chaim.
Yeah, we're in tons of places.
Yeah,
Like I love the fact that we're in multiple countries. That feels really good to me.
yeah, absolutely.
And
honestly, none of this would be possible without you guys listening to
No,
us.
please.
And thank you for just like the dedication for tuning in, listen to us ramble, and for all of you who have joined our community, who joined our Discord server, and
stayed with us through COVID.
Yeah, stayed with us through COVID. Just like I said, joined our community, joined the Discord server. Let us hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
Shot us suggestions, shot us questions to read on the air. Very thought provoking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Reached out to our other community members for help in your own home campaigns.
Yes.
And provided help to others.
Yeah.
Who have done the same.
Yep.
It's great, like on our Discord, when somebody joins and goes, "Hey guys, I've got this problem. I've got this one, character who has gotten involved with the Thieves Guild or whatever, how do I make that interaction fun and interesting, but keep everybody else involved?" And then you've got, before I can even type anything, or Rob can even type anything, you've got 3 or 4 other people on there going like, "Oh yeah, I had a similar situation pop up in my own game. Have you tried this?
Yeah.
This other game system handles it like this,
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great seeing that sort of community being fostered on our Discord, and it's just
I love it.
we love. I mean, we say it at the end of every single show, we love every single one of you.
We do.
And it's I mean, honestly, to get sappy about it. Sorry, this is my show.
Mm-hmm.
You all make this worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the listenership, seeing the engagement on the Discord and whatnot, like, it really keeps us going. And
Yeah.
so thank you so much. Like, we really literally can't do this without you.
Yeah. We are lightly, I will say lightly, extroverted people that we do this because we can sit in a room by ourselves, have a conversation, and still have global interaction with others.
You are the extrovert.
I am that crazy extra introvert who can literally hide in his office 9 hours of the day,
Yeah.
talk to virtually no one, and then be like, I think I need to go to a party for 5 minutes.
I, on the other hand, have only done this for 3 years because I don't have to see anybody but you.
And a few other people at dinner on occasion. So
There are a couple of times when we've thought about going on camera or showing up at a at a con before COVID destroyed that entire landscape, and just like kind of did that 1,000-year stare into the mirror of going like, oh god, other people,
cameras.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I totally get it. So, but we appreciate all of you. We appreciate everything about this, and we hope that 2023 brings in a good year for you, and that we can continue having this every Wednesday stability with everyone, and keep the show rolling in a wonderful way, and keep the community rolling in a wonderful way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Happy New Year to everybody. Here's to a great 2022, and here's to a oncoming and hopeful uplooking 2023 for everybody. May your games be good, may your stories be bright, may your fellowship at your tables be warm and consistent. You can find us on Twitter at @ST_Conclave, on Instagram at @ST_Conclave. Listen to us live every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time at mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave. And please join us up on our Discord. We'd love to have you hear your voice in our community, talk to other great storytellers, shoot us questions for the show. You can find that link on our Twitter, as well as our website, storytellerconclave.com.
We'd like to thank our Patreon members who help us out every single month, especially our name members, Knox in the Box, Subjet Sam, The Arcane Asylum, Sparkle Motion Veteran, Hulavu, and Sean. We really appreciate all your support.
Oh, so much.
So much. Our pre-show music is by Arcane Anthems. You can find that on Instagram or on patreon.com at Arcane Anthems. Our intro music is Beyond the Warriors by Geefrog. You can find that at geefrog.bandcamp.com or on Google Music. And our outro music, which you're hearing right now, is Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Midair Machine. You can find them at freemusicarchive.org.
And a big shout out, as always, to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving and supporting us through 2022 and continuing into 2023.
Yes.
All of our friends who sat at our tables to share these great stories with you over the years, and you, every single one of our listeners. We love you guys so much.
Love you guys.
Good night.
Good night.